From the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. It's time for We Pick 'em, Barry. We've got a few games, we've got a few non-games. Well, let's get right to it. How about this big game on Sunday night? Thunder versus the Heat. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to take the Heat because I think it's a wonderful matchup for Miami. I think in many ways they're tailor-made to play the Thunder. They got a guy that can match up with Kevin Durant. They got Mario Chalmers, an excellent defensive point guard who can chase Russell Westbrook. We haven't even gotten to Dwayne Wade yet. So it's a bad matchup for the Thunder. It's going to be a fabulous game, though. Could be a finals preview. The place will be packed. The place will be electric. I'm looking forward to it. I think Miami will win.
Well, I think it is going to be, no doubt that it's going to be a fantastic game. I'm going with the Thunder on this one. You know, the way they've been going here of late, they win a game, lose a game, win a game. So they won against the Clippers. That means Friday night a loss and Sunday a win, right? I mean, it's hard to predict, obviously, what's going on, but I really like the direction that the Thunder went against the Clippers. Really seemed to have, avenging that loss earlier in the season against the Clippers on their mind. And I think they're going to come to play against the Heat. And Barry, we've seen it. Sometimes the Thunder's biggest problem is with teams that maybe they should beat or handle a little bit easier. I think against good teams is when they play their best. It is a bit of a matchup problem, but I think they're gonna play really, really well, and it's gonna be interesting to see with that second unit even having a little more time to integrate Derek Fisher. How does that work? I think the Thunder win on Sunday night. Heck of a game, though. Speaking of Derek Fisher, how about this one, Barry? Derek Fisher or Reggie Jackson?
Well, I'm going to take Derek Fisher, but I'm not going to give him a wholesale endorsement. I didn't think Reggie Jackson was bad. I thought he was okay. I thought he was getting better. He would have some bad games. I don't think Derek Fisher is going to make a huge improvement on the court. Off the court, I think he can be a great addition. I think you can never have too many statesmen in your locker room. Derek Fisher is a basketball statesman. I don't think on the court it's a huge difference maker.
Well, and I think this is a sort of an interesting question. Are we talking about here and now or in the future? Because here and now I picked Derek Fisher. I think he is the better pick. And even on the court, I think it's an upgrade. I think, is it a huge upgrade? Maybe not. But I think he does bring some things that Reggie Jackson just hasn't developed yet. I think Reggie Jackson is part of the point guard position in the future for the Thunder. You know, you look at Eric Maynor coming back from injury, you look at Reggie Jackson developing in the future. Those are the guys that are going to be playing that position for the Thunder, when you look into seasons in the future. But obviously this year, Barry, it's a different situation. Eric Maynor hurt. Thunder really looking like they might want to contend for some stuff. You got to go for the here and now. And in the here and now, I like Derek Fisher, but Reggie Jackson's not going anywhere. He's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, he'll be third-team point guard next year when Eric Maynor gets back.
All right, what about this one, Barry? Who's got the better record come next NFL season, the Broncos or the Jets?
I think Tim Tebow gets the last laugh. I think the Jets are going to have the better record. I think Broncos got Peyton Manning in large part because they made the great run to get to win the AFC West, upset the Steelers in the playoffs. I think that's why Peyton Manning is in Denver. In many ways, Tim Tebow created the monster that consumed him. But I think a little bit of that was fool's gold. I don't know that Denver is a championship caliber roster, even with Peyton Manning. I think the Jets are pretty good, still on defense. They've got some weapons on offense. It's a pirate ship. Pirate ships do all kinds of things, including implode, but sometimes they explode. It might be a year for the Jets to explode. I'm going to say the Jets get the better of the Broncos.
I'm going to go with the Broncos on this one, and it's mainly because I think the Broncos, as Barry, you mentioned the Jets defense, but I think the Broncos defense is pretty good too. This was a team that was headed the wrong direction. Obviously, Tim Tebow comes in and it changes the course of the Broncos season last year. But let's not forget that defense is pretty good. They kept the Bronco offense in games to the point where Tim Tebow could work that Tebow magic at the end of games. So that Bronco defense, I think, is really a solid defense. Now, you're going to have to go out and get pieces to go with Peyton Manning, a whole different ball game when you're talking about the offense he wants to run. But I think with that defense, that's sort of your base, build around it. I think the Broncos get the better of that one. All right, lastly, what about this one, Barry? In the St. Louis Regional, the NCAA tournament, you got Kansas coming out of there or North Carolina?
Well, I think Roy Williams gets his revenge. In the 08 Final Four, Kansas beats Carolina in the semis, gets old Roy for jolting the Jayhawks earlier in the decade. But I know Marshall is out, the point guard at North Carolina. They're going to be scrambling a little bit, but this Kansas team just worries me. I mean, they didn't play well at all against Purdue. We're lucky to get out of there alive. I think North Carolina's probably got the best roster in college basketball, even better than Kentucky. I think North Carolina gets Kansas this time. I
think Kansas wins out in St. Louis, but I do think it's going to be a heck of a game. Now remember, North Carolina's got Ohio that they've got to play in the Sweet 16, and playing sort of an unknown at point guard. It's going to be interesting to see. This is going to be the first time that essentially their third string guy at point guard, because the guy who got hurt, Marshall, was a guy that was filling in for another injured point guard. I mean, this is going to be quite a pressure-packed situation for this young man to step into. So do they survive Ohio? I think they do. And, you know, Kansas doesn't have much of a test either in NC State, but it sets up a great game. You're going to have a very partisan crowd. St. Louis, not so far from Kansas country. I think the Jayhawks win, but you know, this is going to be definitely a great matchup. I think it's probably the best of those Elite Eight games that could potentially be out there this weekend. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.